Today I'm going to explain how you can create English sentences. Now this might seem very simple, especially if you're already familiar with English. But if you're a new learner of English, make sure you stay tuned because I'm going to show you how you can create good English sentences. Now before we move on, I want to mention that there are several different ways we can create sentences in English, and that what I'm explaining today is not the only way you can create English sentences. But I've chosen two of the English sentences I think you can benefit of the most as a beginner learner of English, and that's a very good place to start. The first structure we're going to look at are structures that consist of a subject, verbs, objects, and additional information. And the additional information is usually a place or a time. The second structure we're going to look at are structures that consist of subjects, verbs, and only additional information. And again, the additional information we can include are usually places and times at which something took place. Now, in whatever structure you use, the subject remains the same. And that is that the subject is the person or the thing that's doing something in the sentence. And it's usually the most important part of the sentence because without a subject, we won't have a good sentence. The verb is usually the action. But as you'll notice, there are several types of verbs we have in English, and not all of them portray a particular action. However, we will call it the action, no matter the type of verb we're talking about. Then we get the object, and usually objects are the result of an action. But sometimes we have objects that are necessary to complete the action, or that play a part in the action. These are what we call indirect objects, but that is a completely different type of sentence structure that we won't look at today. The additional information is information that we add to the sentence because it's important that we tell the person we're talking to or we're writing to when something took place or maybe where something took place. Usually we call this additional information the place or the time. And maybe if you look on Google or on Bing for other information on sentence structure, you might find it as subject, verb, object, place and time. I'm going to put place and time together and call it additional information for the rest of the video. Now, as you'll see, we can use many different words in the position of subjects. And we can do the same with the position of objects. And for additional information, anything that can be a place or a time can be put in that particular position. So consider it like this. We have several different buckets of words and we can choose all these words and put them together to create sentences. The only thing you really need to think of is that something that you put in the verb position is actually a verb and it actually fits the subject and the object. Now, we cannot take only one word and put it in the subject position. We need to add more words to that subject as well. Take, for example, the word woman. I cannot make a sentence that only has the word woman and then a verb. Then we get something like woman sings. And this is not the way English sentences are built, because the subject needs something we call an article. And the article can be the, a, or an. So we already have the woman. Now we need an action. Now I know people in general like to sing, so I'm going to say that this woman sings. So I get the sentence, the woman sings. Now I have a subject, the woman, and I have a verb, sings. Now I still need something in the object position, because I want to say what she's singing. Now, you probably know that someone who's singing sings a song. So what I'm going to say is that the woman sings a song, and song is going to be our object. The same goes for the object as goes for the subject. We cannot only have the word song. Otherwise, we would get the sentence, the woman sings song. And that doesn't sound correct. So I need to add an article here as well. So I get the sentence, the woman sings a song. I chose to say a song because I wanted to indicate that she can sing any song she wants. I don't know which song she's singing. So I chose a over the because if I were to say the woman sings the song, it sounds like I'm saying that she's singing one particular song. So now I have the woman, which is our subject, sings, which is our verb, and then a song, which is our object. Now I want to add some extra information. I want to say where she's singing. Now, I want to say that this person is singing in the studio. So I'm going to add in the studio as our place. Our new sentence then becomes, the woman sings a song in the studio. And if I want to say when she's singing in the studio, I might say the woman sings a song in the studio in the morning. So now you've seen how I can create a sentence with several different parts and how we've covered all of them in this particular sentence. Now in this sentence, I chose to use the woman because I wanted to show you that we have a noun, which is a woman, and we have an article, which is the. But let's say that we already know that it's a woman, and I want to say that a particular person is singing a song in the studio. Then I might say she. So instead of an article and a noun, the woman, I can replace this by something called a pronoun. And the pronoun in this case is she. So I'm going to say, she sings a song in the studio in the morning. Let's look at another example and let's see how these parts of sentences appear in a different sentence. She cuts the loaf of bread on the kitchen counter at 6 o'clock. In this sentence, we again have a subject, and this subject is a personal pronoun, she. We have our verb, cuts. We have an object, the loaf of bread. We have a location, on the kitchen counter, and we have a time, at 6. Now here's an example without additional information because it doesn't need it. He flips the pancake. Instead of using she, which we use for women, I used he, which we use for men. I can also say the man flips the pancake. Then we get the same construction, the man, which is our subject, flips, verb, and the pancake is our object. In this sentence, again, we don't have additional information, but I can add additional information if I want. I can say, the man flips the pancake in the morning. Now it's important to remember that the subject can be anything, as long as it fits the verb. Now what we could do is we can add additional information to make sure that we know when something took place. So as I've done in the pancake sentence, I added in the morning to indicate that something happened in the morning. Now what if I want to indicate that something happened in the past, or maybe that something will happen in the future? To do this, I need to change the verb. And this is what we call verb tenses. When we change the verb tense, we can change the meaning of the sentence, and we can say whether something happened in the past, which is earlier, when it's happening now, which is in the present, or when something happens in the future. Now this is verb tenses very briefly and simply explained, and there's a lot to know about verb tenses, as you can figure out if you Google English verb tenses, or even if you look for English verb tenses here on YouTube. The most important thing is that you remember that we can change when something happened when we change the verb tense from present to past or from present to future. Then there's something else you need to know, and that's the verb form. We can influence the meaning of the sentence and basically how a subject does something or how it comes across that the subject does something by changing the verb form. When I want to indicate that something is happening now, I want to use the continuous form. And you might recognize the continuous form as something that has ing. If it's not very special or if it's not very complex, we can use the simple verb form, past simple or present simple. Present simple for something that's happening in the present and past simple for something that happens in the past. Then we also have this perfect thing. And the perfect verb form is a bit difficult and very complex, so I don't want to bother you now with present perfect and past perfect. But it is important to remember that the verb form also influences the meaning of your sentence. I'll give you an example to illustrate what I mean with the verb tenses and verb forms. Remember the woman singing in the studio. We had the sentence, the woman sings in the studio. Now what I want to do is I want to change it to show that it's happening right now, because we have a video that shows you that this person is singing in the studio. If I have the sentence, the woman sings in the studio, a native speaker will understand that this is something that happens all the time, or that's just a general fact. I want to indicate that it's something that's happening right now at the moment, and to do this I need to use the continuous form. To be precise, I need to use present continuous. And it sounds like this. The woman is singing a song in the studio. Because I use is singing, a native speaker will understand that this is something that's happening right now. Let's say that this person was singing yesterday. then I might use past simple to indicate that this happened yesterday. So our sentence becomes, the woman sang a song in the studio. So now we can look at the second structure I started this video with. We had subject, verb, object, place and time. And now I want to say something without an object. Now some verbs don't take an object and we call these intransitive verbs. But there's another category of verbs that doesn't take an object and we call these copula verbs. Now for the structure subject, verb and additional information, we get a different type of sentence. Here's an example of one of these sentences and I'll explain what I mean. My name is Mr. Henriquez. In this sentence we have a subject, my name, and we have something that follows the verb, Mr. Henriquez. Now is our verb, but if you look closely, Mr. Henriquez, which is my name, doesn't have the function of an object. It doesn't do object-like things, and it doesn't really have an article. It's not the Mr. Henriquez, nor is it a Mr. Henriquez, and I can't say that because I'm talking about my name. Now we need to solve this problem, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to call is a copula verb, also known as a linking verb. Linking verbs are verbs that link the subject and the additional information together. This means that these linking verbs can be used for lots of different things that link together the subject and the additional information. Here's another example that illustrates clearly what I mean. He is her boyfriend. Here we have a subject, he, we have a verb, is, and we have her boyfriend, which is this additional information thing. It's not an object, even though you might want to say, but boyfriend is a noun, so then it must be an object. Now, that is not the case in this sentence, and that is because is one of those linking verbs, and it links together the subject and the additional information. Now here's another example with a different verb that also functions as a linking verb. The food smells great. In this sentence, we have a subject, the food, and we have smells, which is a verb, and smells is a linking verb in this case, and great. Great is not our object, because it doesn't do object-like things. How do we know this? Well, smells make sure that we know that the thing that smells nice is our food. So smells links food and great together. Now English has a long list of these linking verbs, and some of them can even be used as linking verb and as a transitive verb, which means that it can be even more difficult when some of these linking verbs do take objects. Now the most common and most familiar linking verbs are to be, to look, to seem, to sound, to feel, to taste, and to smell. These are verbs that link together the subject and the additional information, and basically say that the subject and the additional information are the same thing. Now sometimes you want to add more information, and adding more information can be done in several ways. Now remember, we can change the meaning of the sentence to make sure that it means that something happened either in the past or in the future by changing the verb tense. We can also simply add more additional information. Now what we also could do is add words to either the subject, the additional information, or the object to add extra information. What we can do is if we have a noun that is in the position of the subject or the object or part of the additional information, we can say something about that noun by adding adjectives. Adjectives are words that add information to nouns, and here's a video that says more about adjectives. Now we put the adjectives in front of the noun because we want to say something about the noun. Let's go back to the song that this woman is singing. If I want to say something about that song that she's singing, I might add something like beautiful. So I might get, the woman is singing a beautiful song in the studio. Now I've added the word beautiful to the noun song. And now I know that the song is beautiful. This is not only something I can do with these structures. I can also add additional information in the form of adjectives to sentences that follow the subject, verb, additional information structure. Take the sentence, the food smells great. If I want to say more about the food, I don't need to add extra words to the additional information part. I can say the hot food smells great. Or I can say the healthy food smells great. Or I can say the unhealthy food smells great. I can even say the hot, healthy food smells great. So by adding adjectives, I can add additional information to my words and thus to my sentence. So that is basically how you can make simple English sentences. Now, if you prefer reading everything I've explained, there's a link in the description to my Medium page where you can find an article that covers everything I explained. Again, there are other sentence structures in English, but these sentence structures are the most important ones we have in English, and I think knowing these two will definitely help you get along while learning English. Next, we're going to look at questions and negations, which are sentences in which you say that something is not the case. If you found this video useful, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you want to stay tuned on my other videos, don't forget to subscribe. For now, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in one of my next videos. It is rather interesting, don't you think, how language is basically like maths and how they are basically like Legos.